will be a new face in the mayor's office in Lake Station, Indiana. A former city judge will face off against Republican challenger in the fall. Christopher Anderson defeated incumbent Mayor Keith Soderquist, winning the Democratic primary nomination. Anderson says he will make ethics the cornerstone of his administration. Mayor Soderquist, his wife, and stepdaughter are awaiting trial on allegations of financial misappropriation of city funds. The mayor of East Chicago, Anthony Copeland, retained his party's nomination and will get a shot at 4 more years in office. Voters there gave him 53% of the vote. His nearest challenger, City Clerk Mary Morris Leonard, received 40% of the votes. Copeland will face Republican Roberto Fisherman Bob Mendoza in November. In Hammond, Tom McDermott, who's been the city's mayor for 12 years, easily won the Democratic nomination. Voters will get to choose between him and Republican Humberto Prado for the mayoral office. In Gary, Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson beat all challengers to win the Democratic nomination. She'll face Republican Charles R. Smith on November 3rd. And in Porter County, the Portage mayoral race ended with Portage Township trustee Brendan Clancy as the largest vote getter. He beat Leo Hatch Jr. and Robert Casco to win the Democratic nomination for mayor. Clancy says his chief issue is addressing the city's $104 million deficit. Clancy will face incumbent Mayor Republican James E. Snyder in the fall. After about 2.5 years of discussion and public comment, the State Board of Education has approved language for new A through F accountability grades for Hoosier schools. The new system gives equal weight to student growth and performance, relying less on standardized test scores and more on factors like graduation rates, performance on graduation exams, and AP passing rates. The measure now goes to the State Attorney General's office for technical approval and then to the governor for his signature. Board President Glenda Ritz says she's pleased with the effort to make the A through F system more fair and transparent. That's a positive message from Ritz, who has had a contentious relationship with the board. Just last week, the Indiana General Assembly approved a measure that would remove her as head of the State Board of Education, allowing board members to elect their own head. This week, the Indiana Family and Social Services Administration, or FSSA, announced that hundreds of thousands of Hoosiers enrolled in the Healthy Indiana Plan, or HIP, are now eligible for the state's new Gateway to Work program. Gateway to Work will help HIP participants identify career paths that could lead to new employment or a better job in a different industry. Governor Mike Pence says that HIP and Gateway to Work form an ideal partnership because both programs help low-income Hoosiers improve their health, their lives, and the lives of their families. The free voluntary program can help participants complete job applications, create resumes, improve interview skills, and provide job search assistance. For more information about the Gateway to Work program, HIP members can go to the in.gov website or call 1-800-403-0864. This week, the governor ensured that another bill will be part of his 2015 legislative effort to strengthen the state's economy. Governor Mike Pence signed into law the Regional Cities Initiative Bill, which aims to make it easier for neighboring communities to work together. The bill establishes the Indiana Regional City Fund to provide grants and loans to regional development authorities, helping them to invest in projects that will drive economic development. The bill, co-authored by Northwest Indiana Representative Harold Slager, also broadens the definition of the word project to include anything that would enhance a region with more residents or business. The governor says he hopes the legislation will help cities bolster investment, attract talent, and continue Indiana on a pathway to economic growth and success. A local law enforcement official is celebrating a reduction in crime, and he says there's more than just one thing helping keep streets safer. East Chicago Police Chief Mark Becker says violent crime is down by 8% so far this year. The chief says joint investigations among police task forces are helping convict gang members and spreading a zero-tolerance message. East Chicago native Patrick Sabatis is a former Latin King member who now tries to get young people out of gang life. He says fewer gang members means less fear in the community.
A lot of times in that dynamic, you got gangs in your community. See, by the gang presence in there, it already inflicts fear, because people constantly see things on the news or hear stories. So as you hear these things, what happens is it creates a picture in your mind of fear.
It says the youth he mentors out of gang life often come back to his group to become volunteers. Coming up next week on Lakeshore Report, we'll go inside his Reclaim Our Kids program to meet one young man who escaped gang life and is now looking forward to a brighter future. One Northwest Indiana community celebrates Mother's Day with its own unique tradition, and a region mother defies the odds to share the holiday with her family. Those stories, plus Steve Walsh, coming up next.
Lakeshore Report wants to hear from you. Send your thoughts, concerns, questions, and story ideas to tvfeedback@lakeshorepublicmedia.org. You can also reach us on Facebook and Twitter at Lakeshore Report. Make sure to tweet us using the hashtag NWIPride and you may see your comments on air. Lakeshore Report, providing you region-focused content.
Just about everyone has heard of the tradition of the father-daughter dance. Well, the folks in Portage have put a different spin on that concept for Mother's Day. They call it the Mother and Son Movie. It's a time for sons and moms to spend some time together and bond. But as Stephen Lattimore reports, the coming attractions might be the little lessons on life the sons get along with their movie.
Okay, it's just a movie with your mom. What's the big deal, right? Well, actually, it's a little bit more than that. This is an exercise in turning boys into men. 2 years ago, the Portage, Indiana Parks Department came up with the idea of a movie with your mom night. This is how it has grown. Long lines of moms with their sons, young and old, taking time out to see a movie and eat some pizza together.
Because we all grow up and they have their own families and their own lives, and every once in a while we have to get together for family time.
With their busy lives, they don't always have time for mom. This makes up for it.
I kind of remember Mom probably in her 30s, like right around mine and my brother's age now. I remember having the pool at the house and always hanging out at the pool and at the beach, and Mom just taking care of us.
Michelle Peregrine knows she doesn't have a whole lot of time left before her son Xander becomes a young man.
You know, he's getting to the age where he's not wanting to stand in line. He wants to go with his friends. So it's going to get harder. So hopefully when he's as old as those other boys were, he'll still want to come to the movies with his mom too.
She wants to make sure he learns the right things about life and girls.
I told him, you know, what I try to tell him, when he grows up, you take a girl on a date, you make her feel special, you know, so it's a learning experience for him too. You're going to make me cry. I love spending time with my boy. You can tell him that you love me. Yeah.
Organizers say this fun night out is one of many life lessons taught by moms.
Absolutely. Husbands to have a good relationship with their wives. That starts with the way a mother raises a son, and they should spend good quality time together.
Plans are already in the works to hold movie nights over the next 4 years.
We like I said, we'd like to be part of the community. So the more that we can be involved, the more that we can keep our families involved and those that are around us with the Parks Department, and anybody in the city, really. We just try to make sure to keep that door open.
Oh, and in case you're wondering about Anthony and John, you guessed it.
I'm probably more of a mama's boy than you.
Okay, big surprise. Everybody liked the Avengers. But you know what they also liked? A movie with their mom. In Portage, Stephen Lattimore, Lakeshore Report.
In an effort to give you even more insight on region events, we're collaborating with the state's second largest newspaper, the Times of Northwest Indiana. Regularly, we'll have an exclusive preview of some of the top stories in this Sunday's paper. This Mother's Day, the Times profiled Steyer's Cindy Irvin, mother of 2 boys, who was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer in 2013. After a double mastectomy and 6 rounds of chemotherapy, her cancer is in remission. Here's a sneak peek of Cindy's story.
Well, it started with a routine mammogram. I was told from my previous one to keep up with them because they thought that there was something, and sure enough, the last one I had, they did find something, and I got the phone call actually at work at 5:30 the night before Thanksgiving. Came home and then shared it with my husband first. I didn't want the kids to know, and unfortunately, being the night before Thanksgiving, I knew everything was closed. There was nothing, I could do about it. I couldn't even get a copy of the file to find out and where to go from here. They just said to see a surgeon. And luckily, one of my customers called concerned because I left for the evening. I couldn't continue. And she gave me the name of Dr. Barbara Kruger at Christ Hospital. She's a surgeon. And thankfully, my husband was off because the next day being Thanksgiving, and then he was off that Friday. He was able to get a hold of Dr. Kruger, and she was so sweet and kind and took me immediately. And within 3 weeks of being diagnosed, I received my first chemo. It's a scary thing to go through, but you realize there's a really lot of nice people in the world. We watch the news and we forget that because you see so many not nice things. But going through this, there are really kind people. And even just having my chemos, sitting there visiting with the other people receiving their chemos, as we're all, bald and, whatever else. But the stories that we would share, it was rewarding, I guess you'd say. I'm a very hyper person, and I worry about everything and everyone, and I learn I can't control, what the universe is going to do. So definitely the day by day, and to just embrace things. I see things differently. The sky's bluer, the clouds are pretty. I mean, everything is different. The food tastes better. Yeah, you just embrace life a lot differently, and I don't judge. You cannot judge anybody. Everybody has a story, and going through this journey, you realize, you can't judge what other people do, and I hope to help people going through the same thing, because so many people reached out to me at my most vulnerable time, and because of their stories and sharing what, things they went through, it really, really gave me the strength too.
For more information about this story, you can log on to www.nwitimes.com. Sadly, Cindy's story is not unique. Millions receive abnormal mammography results, and each year more than 1.5 million women in the United States have to undergo a breast biopsy. After a breast biopsy, a pathologist evaluates the tissue to provide a diagnosis for the patient and her doctor. The results can range from normal or benign cells, precancerous cells, to invasive cancer. A new study examined the accuracy of pathologists interpreting different breast biopsy specimens. Catherine Dolph has more in this week's JAMA Report.
Abby Howell always had normal mammograms. 2 years ago, something changed, prompting her to have a breast biopsy.
I had atypical cells. It was really confusing to me, and I couldn't figure out exactly what that meant.
When a woman is told she has atypia or given another diagnosis of pre-invasive disease known as ductal carcinoma in situ, these are not the same as a cancer diagnosis.
I think it's a challenging job that the doctors have to try and define what is atypical versus what's normal and what's pre-invasive. We're having a hard time in these middle borderline categories.
Dr. Joanne Elmore from the University of Washington in Seattle and co-authors enlisted 115 volunteer pathologists around the country. The pathologists interpreted a total of 240 test slides containing different samples of breast tissue. Those results were then compared to a standard developed by a group of very experienced expert breast pathologists.
These doctors had almost complete agreement on cases of invasive breast cancer. They were not in as high of levels of agreement when there was atypia present or a ductal carcinoma in situ.
For ductal carcinoma in situ, or DCIS, pathologists agreed in about 4 out of 5 cases, but when interpreting atypical cells or atypia, they only agreed about half of the time. The study appears in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association.
Women with these diagnoses are then getting additional treatment, additional surveillance, being told that they are at very high and increased risk for subsequent breast cancer.
The pathologists also disagreed more frequently when interpreting samples from women with denser breast tissue.
Now we know which cases are the most challenging. Now we can study how much improvement we can get by adding in second opinions.
Abby did get a second opinion. She and her doctors opted to monitor her with regular mammograms, which continued to be normal.
For me, I felt like I knew enough that I was willing to take the risk of waiting.
Catherine Dolph, the JAMA Report.
The South Shore Railway has been a region lifeline since the early 1900s. Now, thanks to recent actions in the State House, the commuter rail line connecting Northwest Indiana with the Chicago metro area may be one giant step closer to expansion. Lakeshore Report's Steve Walsh sat down with RDA President Bill Hanna to find out more.
One of the local highlights of the 2015 session of the General Assembly was lawmakers approved $6 million for 30 years to help extend the South Shore to Dyer and potentially Lowell. So what happens now? To talk about it, we have Bill Hanna, President and CEO of the Regional Development Authority. Bill, welcome back.
Thank you, Steve. Glad to be here.
I guess first, congratulations are in order. You've been trying to get this money for a very long time.
Yes, yeah. Glad to finally get there.
So you've got what you need. You got the $6 million. So does this mean we're going to see the trains running soon? Is this it? Is this what you needed? It's now clearing the way?
Yes, and really we were after a bigger package. You know, when we first went down there, and it turned out very well. It was just a little different than we thought in the beginning. So we were looking for closer to $10 million a year, and the reason is that we wanted to have transportation-oriented development, or TOD as it's known, which is really where a lot of value comes out of these things, where you have a mixed use around a train station. That part was not included. And so we were looking for more of a 10 million for 10 years type of model, and what we got was 6 for 30, or 180 million to go to the Westlake extension. So, so this is a better package. It's more money. But what it really does is shift now the attention onto A, building the train, and B, working with the communities to do the TOD projects on the existing line as well as the new line.
Before we get to like what might be around the train line, talk about the train line. This is a $571 million project. Right. You're getting $180 million from the state. Where's the rest of the money going to come from?
Right. Well, we've raised some money locally. So I have to commend Lake County as an example that put $2 million of its seeded funds in this county economic development income tax money. And the great thing about this project, so you have a little over 3 collected already. We're trying to get 8 from the locals. There are some communities that have expressed interest in coming on board, a little bit down the road here. RDA has committed 8 as well. So we're getting very close to having all of the money in line to be able to do the bond issue to support the $571 million project. Now, half of those dollars are going to come from the federal government.
So this moves to Washington now.
That's right. So now we move into working with the FTA to really secure what they call New Starts dollars, which is that half of the federal funds required to build the train.
This is the money that Congressman Visclosky has been promising was around since, the 90s, maybe even since the late 80s, that
right.
He could get this if there was a match for it. He's been asking for this for a very long time. So really, it's now up to the congressman to come through with that pledge?
Yes, yeah. Like you say, the attention shifts there. Congressman Visclosky's in a great position to do this. He has seniority, a lot of experience with transportation and other issues. So we feel good about it. But, that going back to the local involvement, it's so important because you have to remember this is a competition, a federal competition for dollars. So you're in a pile with other opponents possibly or contenders for money. And so the state's action really strengthened our position. They want to see long-term, sure dollars, and this gave us those things.
But there are some very large holdouts locally. Hammond, I just moderated a debate with the mayor, said he's still incredibly reluctant. I think that might even be understating it. He really doesn't particularly want to invest a lot of money from Hammond, at least right now. If some of these communities opt out and they don't want to commit money to this, does this mean the project could still be over?
Well, what it could mean is the project could be less valuable to us. So even if we could still build the train, and we're committed to doing that, and I'm confident we can get the basics done. The TOD component, especially for a place like Hammond, is really where the value is. So as our dollars become less flexible at the RDA, the less we can do in communities like Hammond or Gary, East Chicago, Munster, Dyer, and really, really make this thing something that's competitive with the suburbs in Illinois. And I'm hopeful, and I'm also confident that, we can do a better job of showing values for those communities. And getting past this hurdle with the state, I'm hopeful, too, will compel them to say, look, there's a real commitment here. It's solid, and now it's time for our community to come on board.
All right, Bill Hanna, President and CEO of the Regional Development Authority, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Twice a month, Lakeshore Report teams up with the Society of Innovators of Northwest Indiana to showcase some of the most forward-thinking people and ideas the region has to offer. This week, we introduce you to a woman who is helping to change the lives of women facing hardships, and she's doing it one brushstroke at a time.
It really is true that necessity is the mother of all inventions. I was going through a divorce. I have 3 children and I needed to feed those kids. And I had been very unsuccessful and quite the failure in corporate America, in part because I was so young and I didn't have a drive or an ambition or even a direction for my life. And my children, when they came along, they gave me a stronger purpose, and I think it allowed me to begin to really focus. Excellence by Design is your full-service paint contracting business, and that's really important. We offer all of the services that you would expect from your top-notch paint contracting service. Where we're different is that I purposefully hire women that the world has turned a blind eye to. And I teach them every facet of the business. And while we're doing that, we're teaching them a little about themselves. I think that everyone has something that they can offer, and everyone brings something to the table. If you'll just take the time to get to know someone and get to know what their strengths and their weaknesses are, they actually can build an entire career based on those strengths. Initially, I started the business because I wanted to support my kids. As the business began to grow, I definitely wanted to help empower women. And I thought we could use this company to do exactly that. And so what started off as another paint contracting business soon became something so much more for a lot of women. I often look at the men who walk into the paint stores right alongside me, and I know they've been in business, some of them longer than I've had a driver's license. And that's intimidating. So I just have to stick to doing what I do best, a spirit of excellence, mentoring. I actually believe that the real innovation is that you can have the best of both worlds. I just happen to feel like I can provide a client top-notch spirit of excellence in the work where the walls look fabulous and the ceilings look great and there aren't any holes. And we can pair that with mentoring women. I'm still going to be here. I'm still giving 8 hours a day of work. Why is it that I can't come alongside the ladies that I'm working with and we can't dialogue throughout the day? This year marks our 10-year anniversary, which is astounding because you start something and you don't really know if it's going to stick or make it or be successful. And to think that we're hitting this incredible milestone is amazing, not just for me, but that means that we've done something right, not just as a mentoring company, but as an actual profitable paint contracting company right here in Northwest Indiana. I tell people all the time, it's rare that I get up in the morning and I go to work. I get to do this. Not I have to do this. I get to do this. I get to make the difference in the life of someone.
For more information about the Society of Innovators, visit www.nwisoi.org. For more information about Excellence by Design or any of our stories, you can always visit our website at lakeshorepublicmedia.org. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time on Lakeshore Report.
Hi, joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Jane Lohmeyer, who is the director, and are you the creator, Jane?
Co-creator.
Co-creator of All About Art. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you.
So All About Art, you've been doing this for quite some, it's an All About Art camp,
That's
I should say.
Right, yes.
And you've been doing this for how many years?
13th year this year.
Oh, that's great. Is it in Valpo?
It is in Valpo on the campus of Valparaiso University.
Mm-hmm.
We are not affiliated with the university, we just use their facilities.
Yeah. And is it a camp for what age groups?
Basically for children ages 8 to 11, but we do have an advanced camp and we do have students that come through junior high, and we've even had high school students coming to work on their international baccalaureate projects during the summer.
Good grief. Well, that's a range.
Yes.
It's not just patty cake, is it? No. So how long does the camp run?
We have four different camps actually that run for a week each, and three of the camps are 3 hours long, and then we have a special needs camp that runs for an hour and a half a day for a full week.
And what kind of arts do you cover in All About Arts?
We have a 2D camp, which is basically drawing and painting. We have a 3D camp, which is sculpture, ceramics. And then we have an advanced camp that combines them both. And the advanced camp is for the older students or students who have been to camp before.
And when does camp start this year?
Camp starts on June 8th. It always starts the first Monday after schools get out. And we run 3 consecutive weeks. We'll start out with 3D camp the first week, then 2D camp. And then the third week is advanced camp in the morning and special needs camp in the afternoon. And then the following Sunday, we have an exhibit at the Valparaiso University Center for the Arts,
Mm-hmm.
that all the camps participate, and we have a huge crowd.
That must be a great setting for a camp, to have beautiful university campus like that.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it's
that's
very
terrific.
special.
Well, and to sign up for camp?
We have a website, allaboutart@vu, all one word, .org.
Okay.
And, or any art teacher in Porter County.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for being here to tell us about it. And thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts.
Eye on the Arts is made possible in part by South Shore Arts, the Indiana Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.